Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to do a quick video on how to vet a crypto project, and also just some kind of various FAQs that kind of come along with that. Now these types of videos, maybe for those of you who are more advanced, probably not going to be super helpful. I mean, I think it's always good to kind of review some of these basics just to make sure that like we're kind of sticking to some of the fundamental rules and not getting carried away and letting greed or fear or anything like that kind of take hold of us. But overall, this is mainly for like people where this might be their first cycle, or maybe they have friends or family who are maybe crypto curious and wanting to get in, but also trying to like learn a little bit about what to do and all this type of stuff before they get in. And so this is something that I kind of wanted to put out there. Again, comments, likes, things like that really do actually help go a really long way for me to kind of understand, like, is this type of information useful? Are people wanting to see more of this type of information? Because this is a little bit of a departure from some of the more like current updates, newsworthy related type of stuff. And so if it is something that you are interested in seeing more of, the likes and the comments really do help a ton. So anyway, let's go on ahead, dive right in. We're going to kind of go over how to vet a crypto project, FAQs, all that type of stuff, and then we'll kind of go from there. So this is a PowerPoint, so I am going to turn off my camera here in a second, just so you aren't missing out on any of the like information, all that stuff that's going on screen. But I am still here. You'll just have to listen to the sound of my voice, I guess. But overall, this is essentially kind of meant to be a good starting point. If there is some kind of interest here, I can go into some more intermediate things. But these are kind of the basics on how to vet a crypto project. Make sure you're staying safe and you're not falling for rugs or scams or a lot of that. Particularly, depending on kind of what niche of crypto kind of suits your interest. There are a ton of rug pulls, scams, things like that out there. So you just have to be really, really careful. And so hopefully this is something that kind of helps with that. So moving on, we got the top 8 things to look for when vetting a project. Again, this is kind of just the start of the list, but I think these are kind of some of the very, very important things to look for. And then from there, we're going to have some kind of FAQs that you should definitely be aware of when you're kind of navigating through the cryptoverse. So I'm going to remove my camera and we'll just go through here. So first off, this isn't necessarily like a requirement, but this is always something I like to take a look at just out of curiosity, because generally if the team is not fully documented, I proceed with a little bit of caution, right? Like none of these are necessarily like hard stops or hard goes in terms of like whether I want to continue looking into a project. It's just the more like essentially you're looking for like points, right? And the more points a crypto project has, usually the better I feel about it. And the way I like to invest, I like to invest in like essentially like percentage allocations, right? And so if I feel really, really good in a project, maybe I invest 5 or 10% of my money. And if I feel kind of meh about it, maybe I'll only invest like 0.5% or 1% or something like that, right? Just to make sure I'm managing risk appropriately. And so a fully documented team is definitely something that I take a look at, just because if they're anonymous, it makes it a lot easier for them to scam you and not have any sort of like backlash or like repercussions for it. That's kind of what we're getting at here. Tons of scams, tons of rug pulls. So just if somebody's undocumented, it makes it a lot easier to do. The biggest one is, who are the top holders of the coin? Or this is another big thing too, because if we look at a coin and we see, oh man, price has gone up 100% or 200% or 300% in the past 5 minutes, but one person holds 60% of the supply. It was like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, the price might run up until that person decides to sell, but because they're essentially artificially constraining the supply. So this is one of the things that you also need to look at. If you go on Dex Screener or things like this, there's usually a pretty clear way to see this. Now, there are some nuances here that maybe in a more like advanced video we can get into, but there are some like kind of things you need to watch out for here. But ultimately like you need to see like who are the top holders of the coin and how concentrated is the supply overall. When you look on Dex Screener, there are bubble maps as well. And so basically it's like if I were to take 20% of the supply and then send 1% to like 20 different wallets to try and make it look like it's not so concentrated, bubble maps will pick that type of thing up. So that's something that you can also look for as well, and you should look for. Now, the other thing too is you need to research kind of the like mechanics of your investments. Now I'm looking at like liquidity wallets, burn wallets, secured wallets, things like that, because if they have, let's say, like it's very, very common, particularly on Solana, but I would say in most coins, there's some level of like liquidity wallet where a certain percentage of the tokens are just kind of added into the wallet. And that wallet essentially is basically just there for like helping, facilitate liquidity. Well, usually like if that wallet's not locked and renounced and all that type of stuff, it's happened very much in the past where people will just pull all the money out of the liquidity and now you can't trade and they can rug you. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do that. If people are saying that they're burning certain tokens for certain milestones or whatever, that should be verifiable. So you should be looking at that. Secured wallets, if things are locked up, like making sure that you can verify that that's the case. There's a lot of that type of stuff going on here. Also, do their goals seem to make sense? Like, I would say generally, if things don't pass the sniff test, you're gonna lose 100%. Like, maybe things go up. Like, I've seen things that kind of almost objectively look like scams or rug pulls or things like that, that continue to go on to do crazy things, but they always end up losing. And so, in my opinion, if their goals just don't really seem to make sense, or as I say, it doesn't seem to just generally pass the sniff test, this is something that I personally would stay away from. But again, not necessarily a hard pass or like a red light, green light type of thing. It's just, if it seems a little fishy, you need to kind of take that into your investment of like, yes, I'm going to invest a little bit in this because I think it might 100x before it rugs, or, whatever. Like, maybe that, that's how you want to view that, but you just have to kind of know that going in. And one thing that I'll say now and again in my comment section is you need to always understand the bear case of the investment that you're looking into. If there isn't, you either didn't do enough research or it's a Ponzi. That's pretty much the two options there. There should always be a way that your investment can fail. And if you haven't figured it out, you haven't either looked hard enough or it's not there and it's a scam. So that's also something you should always think about. Like, if I were to invest in this, how could this lose? Because everything always can lose. Trust me, believe me on that it can lose. You just need to figure it out. And if you haven't figured it out, like I said, it's either one of those two things. The other thing is economic factors. Why would someone want or need to buy it? Now, economic factors, I think with meme coins, this can be a little loosely described, right? Because maybe it's not economic factors, but it's like, what is the reason for somebody to buy it? And sometimes with meme coins, it's just because it's funny, or it's a good meme, or you think other people will like it, or stuff like that, right? Like, there's a lot of different things as to why you might want to buy something, other than, oh, well, like the staking rewards are good, or, oh, it's a deflationary coin. So if nobody, or if everybody, trades it and it's going to go down to zero, but I hold $1 million, then I'm going to be a billionaire, or whatever, right? Like, these are the types of things of like, why would somebody like me want to buy this? And if you can't really seem to answer that question, then maybe you should be, potentially reassessing why you're looking into it. The other one, what does their chart look like? Has it gone up 300% in the past day? Why? I mean, if it's gone up 300% in the past day, does that change kind of your base case? Because as we all know, when things pump like crazy, they come down 100% all the time. But it's like, okay, well, is it 300% into a 10,000% pump before it comes back? Or, like, what is that? So it's definitely hard to kind of gauge that overall, but you cannot let FOMO get a hold of you as you're starting to like look into these projects, because if something like that has happened, like, again, proceed with caution. How easy is the coin to get? This is another really important thing is, if it's not on, like, let's say if it's not on Binance, that could be a good thing, right? Because generally we know that when these coins get listed on these major exchanges, price almost always goes up, because there's a lot of people in crypto who are either super retail or super risk averse, and they basically only operate on exchanges or like large centralized exchanges, think like Coinbase or Binance. If it's not on Coinbase or Binance, they're not buying it, and they will gladly pay the premium, essentially waiting for it to get listed because of that. And so, that's something you can always identify, is if there's a coin on the or like not on a major exchange that you think will get listed, maybe it could be worth buying if you're willing to go through the hassle and things like that to get it. Now, the next thing is I want to kind of run through this relatively quickly, just talking about like, what does crypto do per se, right? Because what crypto do, it depends on the project, right? And this should kind of be part of your investment analysis when you're looking into it, is what does it do? Does this seem useful? Do I think that other people will want this? Is it going to add value in some way? That's essentially what you're looking for, right? I mean, some are purely memes, some are store of value, others are attempting to be a type of digital currency, some are trying to bring the internet on chain. I mean, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff, right? But you need to understand like what it does. And here's some examples, right? Helium is built to be like a facilitator in their Internet of Things, and now like their 5G network, they're essentially trying to like make like an Uber or like an Airbnb type of like decentralized network for telephones. And so like that's cool, right? I mean, it's fairly clear and fairly easy to understand what they do. Bitcoin, same thing. I mean, they essentially started to become like a payments and the currency network, but it's kind of morphed into like being like a store of value over than like an actual like payments network itself. And so obviously things can change over time. Filecoin's another one where people are essentially like trying to use crypto to essentially like put Google Drive or something like that on chain. Again, there's a use here. People understand what it does, why you would do it, stuff like that. Continued, same thing, USDC, USDT, UST, all this type of stuff, RIP UST, but that was one that was built essentially to be a peg to the US dollar. These are all essentially that were like, that's what they were built to do. And it's very clear what its purpose is. Not really much of an investment case in these, I guess, unless you like want to stake it. Maybe that's the investment case, but from like a speculation perspective, not really much of an investment case here. Ethereum essentially like is built to grow, they're kind of like looking to be the internet, right? And so if like Ethereum is the currency in which you interact on this new internet. So that's something that like you can see with Ethereum. That's kind of what it does per se. Dogecoin was basically built as a meme. They just basically ripped Litecoin and called it Doge because they were essentially trying to like tongue in cheek a little bit about the crypto space. Picked up popularity from Elon Musk, Mark Cuban. Obviously, it's been way down and then way back up since then. Ironically, mainly on the back of Elon Musk the second time as well, which is kind of funny. All that type of stuff. Now, I want to go over kind of all the risks here as well, because the risks cannot be like I feel like they should always be identified when you're talking about this type of stuff, just because it's really important to like never lose sight of like things are still kind of the Wild West here, right? I do think that's going to change, especially coming into 2025. It seems like we've got a really quite pro-crypto U.S. government coming in. I think that's going to really kind of push the envelope as far as at least in the U.S., bringing some clarity to crypto. I think if the U.S. gets it, there will be a lot more clarity starting to happen around the world. I know Europe has kind of started to kind of move in that direction. Russia and China are purely kind of seeming to follow in the U.S.'s footsteps, just purely out of being kind of like political adversaries, stuff like that. They don't want to like lose step, I guess, in that type of competition. But first one, if you've been here in crypto for more than 5 seconds, you probably know this to heart, but like you got to check, double and triple check both your transaction and the contract if you're trying to like buy some super micro cap coin, right? I mean, you need to always check these just to make sure that you're one, sending it to the right place or buying the right thing. That's always very, very important. Transactions can't be undone. So if you screw it up, you're just kind of SOL, at this point. So you gotta make sure that you're always checking the transactions there. Also, just making sure you're aware of like what chain you're on and what chain you need to be on. If you try and send some Bitcoin to a Solana address, not gonna work, and you're gonna lose that Bitcoin, right? So things like that are kind of like, those are what you need to be aware of. Obviously there are like EVM compatible type wallets, and so things get a little bit easier there. There are a lot of like software solutions and things like that coming along that are kind of abstracting a lot of this away, so it makes it a little bit easier. But if you're kind of on some of the older stuff, just make sure that you're kind of aware of like what chain you're on and what chain you want to be going to, because that's a very important one. Again, if you send coins, tokens to the wrong chain address, they can be lost forever. Sometimes, depending on like like if you send out like a centralized exchange or something, sometimes they can retrieve it, and it's like a process and a pain in the butt to do, but it can be done. Never, ever, 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 again, this is another thing. If you've been in crypto for more than 5 seconds, you should know this. But for those of you who don't, this is just the ever-present reminder. Never, ever, ever give out your private key to your wallet, or sometimes this is called seed phrase. This is essentially the equivalent of giving somebody your debit card and PIN. They can spend whatever they want on whatever they want, whenever they want. Like, it's just blank check. So if you do that, you will get your wallet drained 100%. Same thing. Not only do you not give it out, but don't lose it, right? Because if you lose it and then lose access to the wallet, there's no real getting it back, right? Like, you need that 12-word phrase to get your wallet back. Again, some of these new wallets do have like some account abstraction layers to it, so it's a lot easier nowadays, and it's not like this whole 12-word phrase thing that's a little bit kind of ridiculous overall, but it does help with that type of thing. So again, if you are sitting on like kind of some of the older wallets, though, do not lose your 12-word phrase. And I would say don't even put your 12-word phrase on the internet, right? Because like, let's say you put it in your Google Drive and like your Google Drive gets hacked, like, well, they now have the access to your wallet. So, I mean, the best place to keep it is written down somewhere on a piece of paper. Again, you know, if you can't do that, then I guess you can just take the risk, but it is a risk. You also could get a hardware wallet. Hardware wallets are very nice. And I would say if you are like holding a more like a material amount of money, you should just get one. They're like 80 to $100, and they, you know, can protect you from a lot of things. And so if you do, like, if you're looking to kind of get into crypto a little bit more seriously, a little bit more, you know, drop some meaningful amounts, I would say just get a hardware wallet. It's gonna make your life a lot easier and a lot safer. Not, you know, it doesn't remove the risk completely, but it does make your life easier. So anyway, this was kind of a quick overview of, you know, kind of crypto FAQs, how to identify a project, a lot of that type of stuff. If this was helpful, like I said at the beginning of the video, please just like, comment, all that type of stuff. Let me know that you found it useful and found it helpful, because that is kind of probably going to dictate whether I make like a more intermediate or advanced level version of this, just to go into some of the more in the weeds things that you can see. So anyway, like I said, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Like, that's a really great way for me to see kind of what you guys like. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.